Ladies and gentlemen, the world's #1 sports and recreation podcast, Cheap Heat, is back, and we're just a couple of weeks from WrestleMania. But right now, it's about something that may be bigger than WrestleMania 40. That's right. That's right. We're talking about a foray into the world of writing and publishing. I don't know. Let me throw some names at you. Faulkner, Shakespeare, these Lynch/Quinn. These are the names I'll throw at you. The man, not your average girl, is out on March 26th. You can pre-order now on Amazon. There's an audiobook as well. Becky, did you record the audiobook yourself?
I sure did. You know, if somebody listens to the audio book and in the beginning I sound a little like I'm eating marshmallows, I was not eating marshmallows. It was because I had bitten my tongue so badly in a match that there was a giant chunk like out of my tongue. So it was a little blah, blah. So that'll be entertaining to listen to, if nothing else.
How common is that? Have you had a really bad tongue bite previously that did something like that?
I mean, just that one.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard that, although it kind of makes sense. Oh, I hate a bad tongue bite.
Oh, it's the worst. But sometimes, like, I feel like I'm a Labrador, like my tongue be hanging out of my mouth, you
know?
Be thinking about Seth Rollins.
Exactly. How long you guys been together now?
5 years.
Wow, and your tongue still hangs out that way. That's
still
wonderful.
Hanging out. I mean,
wait, you guys been married together or together?
We've been together for 5 years. We've been married for 3 years.
That was quick. It's only been 5 years. You guys have done a lot in 5 years.
We've done a lot in 5 years. Yeah, we really squeezed it in. We were supposed to be married for 4 years, but then the pandemic happened.
Wow. So you were going to get married a year in?
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. In the book, do you do a lot of the, because your childhood and upbringing is so interesting, and I'm sure that takes up a lot. Do you spend some good time on the meeting of your husband and father of your child?
That's my favorite part. That's my favorite part of the book. Just because I just find it so fun to talk about him. So if you wanted to spend the next 30 minutes talking about Seth Rollins and how great he is, I'll gladly indulge.
Well, I will. You know what? Let's work backwards. Since we're there, I will start there. Well, what is you guys are not similar on the surface. On the surface, I think you come off as much more. Maybe not much more. You're not like a. You know, I think you. Let me not mince words. You come off as, I think, outwardly more emotive than Seth.
Way more, yes.
Seth, and I've heard that, and it's funny, someone said this to me, and at first I had to think about it first because it wasn't what I remembered anymore, because I've known him for a while now. They were like, you never know what he's thinking, and he doesn't show any emotion. And I'm like, no, because he's really nice. And then I thought, I'm like, wait a second. No, he is really nice, but that is also true. If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know what he thinks of anything.
He's the Mona Lisa of wrestlers, you know, but he's also very emotive when he's out there in front of but I spend so much time being like, you all right? Like, you mad at me? What's going on?
I saw that in your first We Feast interview that you there's a lot of time doing that.
I'm very hard on my sleeve. Here is how I'm feeling. And he's very like contemplative, no selly, has to think about things until he processes how he feels about them. Whereas I'm fiery, you know. I know how I feel about a thing, and then I'll process it and go, I wish I didn't. I wish I could have been more like that. But we are very different, I suppose, in that regard. Very similar interests, very similar worldviews. But you know, my brother said to me when I was younger, he said, "You're a squirrel and you need a tree." And I think he was right in that.
And Seth is your tree, is what you're saying.
Seth is my tree. He's my tree. He's solid. I'm squirrely.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. He's solid. He's level. I'm a wild woman.
What was your relationship like with him prior to realizing that there was something there?
Right. He was such a great friend. But I always there was always a connection. There was always just, I would look forward to seeing him. And then when we were together, I just really enjoyed talking to him. And I'd always tell him terrible jokes and he'd tell me I was the worst. And that was our whole thing. And it was very fun. It was a very fun friendship.
Well, I look forward to hearing sort of the way that you guys found your way to each other. Because yeah, it feels like now it's been a thing for so long, and then when you said it's only, wait, you guys only met like right before the pandemic. I mean, sorry, not met. Started dating right before the pandemic.
January, around the Rumble, January 2019, when we both won the Rumble. We're both
January
like, oh well, we both, yeah, we
2019.
both won the Rumble. We should be together.
Yeah, no,
That's how it worked.
it's a true wrestling story. If they're going to have a men's and women's rumble, the winner of each rumble should get married and have a child.
Yeah, I don't know that would bode too well this year. You know, like Brandy would probably have a problem with that with Cody and Bailey. You know, that can't do that every year, but you know,
no, it would
some
be
exceptional years we could do that.
So your childhood, when did the love affair with wrestling start for you? It was pretty young, right?
Pretty young. Like, I don't remember wrestling not being in my life. I remember dressing up in my mom's 80s garb, you know, and wrestling on the bed. I remember having this leather glove that I used as like a mandible claw. This was before I was even a fan of Mick Foley. I remember liking Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and being terrified of the Undertaker and hiding behind the couch. And so I remember all of those things. But then I fell out of wrestling, and then it wasn't until I saw Mick Foley in the Attitude Era, and I was like captivated by him and the way he talked, and he was so unconventional, and he wasn't your typical superstar, and he took these big risks, and I related to him and I loved him, and so it started like, okay, just let me know when Mick is on. And then I was hooked. Then I was in. Then I couldn't shut up about wrestling. Then it was all that I wanted to talk about. And then he wrote a book. So one day I wanted to write a book. But I didn't even think that I was going to be a wrestler. You know, like that wasn't a dream. That wasn't an achievable dream for me. Becky with the belly like a sack of potatoes. That's what I was called as a young child when I was overweight.
That's not even a catchy gimmick. That's terrible. Becky with
yeah,
the belly
no,
like a sack of potatoes. It doesn't even work for me.
Yeah, cheap heat, I would say. Cheap heat. Anyway,
I like that. Beautifully
but
done.
yeah, and then I was like 15, and I was a little bit of a waster, and I just wanted to get my life in order, so I started professional wrestling. I found out they were opening a school. Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt, was opening a school in Ireland, and it was about an hour away from me, and that was it. I wanted to go down, not to be a wrestler, that just, it seemed so unrealistic, but to get fit and to learn a new skill and find a new community. And I just fell in love with it from day one. We didn't even have a wrestling ring. We had just 6 blue padded mats, and I loved it, and I wanted to get better, and I'd never had that drive to be better at anything.
So what had you been? So prior up till that, athletics wasn't really a thing for you. Like, do you not have anything that sort of you felt deeply up until then?
No, no. When I was a younger kid, I wanted to act, and I had my uncle brought home his now wife, but she was an actress, and she was in this soap opera in Ireland called Glen Roe, and it was a soap opera based on a farm. And at the time, she was having an affair with the main farmer, and it was this giant controversy in Catholic Ireland in the 90s. And like, we couldn't believe that my uncle even brought home this pretend hussy, you know, like it was that controversial. And then And I remember like somebody must have gotten to her and was like, tell her not to act, tell her not to act. So my aunt sat me down and she was like, oh, you don't want to be an actress, it's a hard life and whatever, blah, 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 blah. And so it was then decided that I should be a lawyer, you know, that I'm great at arguing and I like to perform and I'm dramatic, so I should be a lawyer. And so I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I was doing not good at school. I wasn't focused in any way. It was just like, okay, I'm supposed to be a lawyer, so I'll be a lawyer. But I never really had any drive for anything until wrestling.
So Finn is almost 10 years older than you, but that's about right?
Is he? No, he's only like 5 or 6.
No, isn't Finn almost? I think Finn's like a year younger than me. And you're 30.
Let's go. I'm 37.
Oh, no, then if I take it back, you're right. Then it's only like 6 years. He's 42. He's 42.
Okay, yeah.
He's a spring chicken.
He is a spring chicken.
So he's only 5 years
As
old.
are we all.
Aren't we?
We're so young.
I know.
We're so young.
Well, you know what, though? We are. Isn't that crazy? Because you don't
We
think about
are.
it, but we are. Even me. And I'm 7 years older than you. But really, this is prime of our lifetime right here.
This is the prime of our lifetime, you know? Things have changed. This is the prime.
Well, you look back...
Actually, we got about another, you know... Like, look at J-Lo, man. Killing the game.
J-Lo's... She's had a prime... Her prime's been long. That's
her prime continues.
It just...
Same with us.
Yeah.
Same with us.
Just
watch it.
I hope you're right about that.
No shade on Liv.
No. So what was he like? What was Finn like? Finn was obviously, he'd been doing it for several years at that point, but he's not the guy that he is now. He was still a kid at the time. Relatively, he was a kid starting to school.
He was only 21. I remember him having his 21st birthday. Like he was talking about having his 21st birthday and he came in hungover the next day. But you know, like Ferg has always had this confidence and this presence about him that when you walked in, like you knew he was going to make it. You knew he was going to do big things, and he had this finesse in the ring and this ability and this charisma, and then he was jacked out of his mind, ripped out of his mind, and always such a logical thinker and a planner and driven, but in a very precise manner. So you just knew he was going to be something special.
And he was good enough and smart enough to be the person who taught you how to do this thing at that time?
Absolutely. But it's funny, you know, like, because he hadn't even been wrestling that long. And I think, like, nobody really understood, like, the psychology. Like, I remember thinking of wrestling back in the indies as being, like, you do chain wrestling, then stuff. You know, like I didn't understand shines or heats or comebacks or false finishes. It was just because, you know, we were trained in the very British style of lots of chain wrestling, lots of exchanging holds, catches, can kind of stuff. And then and then I learned about shines and psychology and comebacks and getting an actual proper emotional response from the audience.
Which is interesting. That is interesting, though, that you learn that way, because I feel like these days the way that so often people learn on the indies, at least, not to say there aren't tons of people who do it the right way, but there is so much of, like, you think of big spot fests and people learn the big spots more than they learn, you know, either way, they're still skipping the shine, comeback, all that stuff. But here it would be more like, how do I learn the big flashy spot? Not how do I get the chain wrestling down?
We were really into that. Like we were like the technical, we were the real tough wrestler that could really apply a hold. And like
what would Fit Finlay do?
What would Fit Finlay do? He would make it look vicious. And the guy who taught Fergal and Paul, who was my other trainer, his name was Andre Baker, and he liked to have us doing like little shoot fights. So and he even came up with his own martial art that he called ring wrestling, and we were all graded on ring wrestling, and I've got a brown belt in ring wrestling, which I don't think is even a real thing, but but like it made us feel like we were legitimate tough guys, you know? And we were like, we felt it. Like that was the thing that I loved about it, was like I was like tough now, you know? Like nobody could mess with me anymore because I was tough. And I had this thing about me. I was a wrestler now, and it gave me this identity. And for the first time in my life, I really kind of had this confidence after I started.
Do you
And it
still
changed
do you
my life.
do you still feel like a tough wrestler?
Yeah, I'm a tough wrestler. So
Like
tough.
like if you're out in public though, and like you hear someone go, she's a wrestler. Like, do you feel
Yeah,
like that still connotes that, like, oh well, yeah, they know it's entertainment, but they still wouldn't like start something with you.
yeah, because I'm tough. No, yeah. So it's. I think everything changes when you have a child too. Like when I'm out on my own, like I kind of feel like I'm a little pit bull sometimes, you know. But then when I'm there with my daughter, I'm just this soft little, like, oh, I hope nothing ever happens to you, kind of thing. So there's this weird juxtaposition, I
And
suppose.
and then yeah, and moms are crazy though, because then if like God forbid a situation popped up where you had to be pitbull for Rue, you'd be the craziest pitbull you've ever been.
Oh, like beyond, like unchained, like foaming at the mouth, you know? Yeah,
um,
it's a wild thing. It's a wild thing.
um, there is a real camaraderie I feel like among the Irishmen in WWE. I had coffee on Saturday with Kevin Egan.
Oh, I
Um,
love that man.
I'm one of the sweetest men there's ever been.
What a
Um,
gent.
And I thought about you guys. I was like, oh man, Kevin leaving must have been it was a loss for everyone, but like for the little Irish contingent, I feel like that was a big loss.
Yeah, it was. It was heartbreaking. We all loved him. We loved him. I love him. And I love him. He's great, and he's so great. And he was always working so hard. Like he would always find you. What do you want me to talk about? Let me take all these notes. He was always asking and always trying to improve and get better and tell the best story. And that goes a long way too, you know, that he cared enough to always be doing that. And he was great. He's
But there
great.
and there is a thing though that is like sort of special among you guys, right? Like am I wrong for picking that up? It always feels like I see there's only a few of you, but I feel like you're always together in some way. I see a connection all the time.
Yeah, yeah, there is. And like, you know, like Fergal, we go back so long. He's like a brother to me. Like JD, I've known him since he was 12, since he couldn't hit the top rope when he was learning, you know. I
Wow.
remember him on his first day. And then like the fella, Seamus. Seamus is like another brother to me. He's one of my best friends, and you know we have that connection. One, because we've known each other for so long, but two, we know what it's like to be over here, to be away from our family. And then you know Ireland's such a village. You know, like I think, what do they say in America? You're always the Kevin Bacon thing. You're
6 degrees, yeah.
6 degrees of separation. In Ireland, there's one. You know, in Ireland there is one. There's not more than that. Like I think I was doing this with one of my friends. She was like, "Well, how about this person? How about that person?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, like Colin Farrell, my aunt used to babysit him, and his brother used to teach me dancing." And then like she would just go through like different Irish celebrities, and either I knew them or I knew
One
one
person.
person that knew them. Yeah,
I will say there is being around wrestling has led to a different kind of appreciation for me for Irish people because I've never been to Ireland, unfortunately. I plan to go.
oh, you gotta go.
I know. So like
It's
my
lovely.
my experience with the quote Irish are like Irish Americans in New York or Boston, and God bless, but they're just Americans. They're just different. It's kind of like different versions of Americans, right? There is a
Yeah,
different thing about meeting Irish people from Ireland. Like you
yeah,
guys have, there is a friendliness and camaraderie that I'm just glad I've gotten to experience because I wouldn't have known otherwise.
yeah. It's so close to New York. You have to take the flight.
I know
Yeah,
it's
just for a
beautiful
few
and
days.
I'm going to. This is a promise. I'm my wife who's traveled the world a lot has never been either. So we're going to do this. I know
When?
it's wrong.
When?
What you want a date?
We
Well,
need to plan this out.
all right. Well, no, and I'll come to you for recommendations. You know what the problem is? You guys have a bit of, and this is not right. I believe there is a reputational food problem.
In Ireland.
I don't think that people speak highly enough about Irish food. And so if you're very food driven, it may not rise to the top of your list right away.
Wait, no, 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 pal. No, 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 no. We gotta change this because the Irish food is delicious.
I've heard this.
And so it's definitely on the come up. Like in Dublin, when I left, it was not a food city. When I go back there, it is a food city. It's a coffee city. But even like you know, you don't gotta get fancy. You just gotta go to a chipper, and you guys don't have like a proper chipper over here. You get the chips fries that are like just deep fried in the most delicious lard that you've ever, and they just it's so good.
And you get
So
like,
amazing.
do you get like sandwiches or burgers at a chipper as well?
You can get a burger. You can get a battered sausage.
Ooh.
I love a battered sausage. I just love the word sausage. You know, or you could get fish. I've never eaten fish in my life, but you know, some people are into that kind of thing.
Okay, well, we're gonna fix this, and I think
Okay.
my trip is gonna be the beginning of changing this conversation so people.
And then an Irish stew, you know? You can get a good Irish stew, shepherd's pie anywhere. Delicious.
Are you saying a good Irish Jew like me in Ireland, or are you saying Irish Jew like a
Irish stew.
an Irish stew?
Irish stew.
I,
Irish
I,
stew.
I'm down for a stew, a hearty.
Yeah.
It has to be a hearty stew.
A hearty stew, yeah, with lots of meat and potatoes. Yeah.
Okay, so the book is coming out again in next week.
Next week on Tuesday, the 26th.
Are you more nervous about? I'm guessing you're more nervous about your book release than you are WrestleMania at this point. WrestleMania is kind of old hat for you. Like, do you still get like?
Nah, WrestleMania is not old hat for me.
You still get
old
nervous.
Hat for anybody.
I guess you're right. You shouldn't, right? If you're doing this, you should still be nervous for WrestleMania.
I get nervous before I go out for every match. The only time I have not gotten nervous, I think there was like one or two times, and it's been some of my worst performances. I like the nerves. The nerves are good. They do something to me. They make me better. I like that. I like.
Is there an excitement? Like every stage of one's career is different. It's such a funny business in that way. And right now, Rhea is in like such a incredible moment in her career. She started. It was like at least from my standpoint, I was like waiting for her to be what I knew she was, and it wasn't happening at first. And I was like, "No, you wait and see. This is gonna happen." And now it's been happening.
Yeah.
Is it exciting for you to get to work with someone when they're having clearly like such a special moment as well?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It really is. It really is because then everything feels bigger. You know, like everything feels bigger when they're elevated and you're elevated and you can go in and have that big fight feel. And then the other thing is that's where I've always thrived, is where I've had an opponent that has seemed insurmountable. And that's where she is right now. And I think that makes me better too.
Yeah, and it gives your character motivation. I never went fully into depth on this on the air because we had the conversation off the air, but I always found it fascinating. So now you're here, I'll ask you. The conversation you and I had about heels and baby faces and how being a baby face can just be really challenging. I'm curious to how you feel now because I feel like at the time we had this conversation, you were still relatively new to being back on the good side. And now here we are a couple years later and you're still doing it. Do you find that to be true? And can you share a bit about what's challenging about being just a good old fashioned good guy?
Yeah, because a heel can do no wrong. right? Like, you can be abrasive, you can be an asshole, you can uh, you can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, and the babyface is not afforded that luxury. So there's a freedom that comes with being a heel, and then there's a thing of heels saying something to the babyface or doing something and fulfilling their promises more readily than the babyface, and then that becomes difficult, and it ends up being this hard line to walk. Right now, I'm at a stage where kind of whatever anybody thinks of me is their business, and I'm gonna do me regardless. So
That
Rhea
makes it
is,
easier. That makes it easier than
yeah,
being like the super white meat, you know, ultra baby face.
yes, yeah, for sure. Because people don't. It's hard for people to relate to that because that's not how we are as human beings, right? Like, that we don't turn the other cheek. We're not infallible in terms of emotions and doing the wrong thing and doing the bad thing. And so when you're going against somebody who's, and I've been in this position where you're the heel, but you're not really the heel. You know what
Right.
I mean? And you're not
Yeah.
booked like the heel. You know, then as the baby face, well, it's hard. So you either like scratch and claw to try and find a way to make you more baby face-ish and turn more into that white meat, or you just kind of go, whatever happens, let me just tell my story from my perspective, what my character wants, what I'm thinking, and then just be true to that, and whatever people take from that is up to them. Because ultimately, whatever anybody takes from anything is up to them, and we can try to elicit a certain response. Doesn't always go there. That's the beauty of pro wrestling. That's the magic of pro wrestling. Is we can put something in place, and the audience might reject it, but something else magical comes from that.
That's so well put. That's so well put. And yeah, it's kind of the situation you're in now because Rhea's kind of treated like she's bad sometimes, but then we went to Australia and she was obviously really good. And now we're back and the crowd loves cheering her because she's having this moment. But she sort of has the flexibility. If she wanted to be really bad, it would be fine. But she also
Yeah,
doesn't have
yeah,
to be because
yeah.
people like her. So yeah, if you try too hard to play opposite that, that's impossible, you know?
No, no. So you just gotta find the truth. Like, where's the truth? Where's the truth in my character? Where's the truth in what I don't like about her character? And I suppose that's how I've always thought about things.
I
At
had
least certainly lately.
the experience of doing one thing that you will never do, that you will be jealous of, Rebecca Quinn.
Huh? I
You'll
will
never
never
get to
do.
do it.
I'll
Never.
never get to do it.
Mm-mm.
Huh?
I
Huh?
sat I sat next to your husband as he watched your cell match with Trish Stratus.
Oh, I will never get to do that. No, I'll never get to do that.
I
That's true.
felt I felt confident in asserting this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and it was I really I'm like such a nerd that like I take in moments like that. Like when everyone else was just being in the moment, I'm like, that's cool. What's it like watching Seth taking because he had a big match and he's supposed to be he's preparing at the same time. Him and whoever he was working are sort of talking and stuff, but like there's a monitor and
Chin.
he just keeps coming to the monitor to watch you. And I'm watching him react in real time to your pinfalls, which really pops me because it's almost as if it's like he's like really reacting to each pinfall of yours, right? Um,
Oh,
no, it was quite sweet, and there was no camera. Like they document everything, but this wasn't being documented. This was actually a real moment, and getting to watch him just go through the ups and downs of that match, which was, I mean, am I crazy? Me and Dipperstein like were like over the moon for that match. We were like texting each other immediately afterwards, like, oh my God, this is like a real cage match. This because sometimes we get frustrated that cage matches are like a prop and it's not being utilized to be scary and dangerous and all of the things that should make that stipulation matter. And that match felt so great and throwback. Did it feel that way to you also? Did you immediately leave and know like, oh wow, that was kind of different than anything I've done before?
Yeah. No, I love that match. I love that match. That's going to go down as one of my favorite matches, one of the matches that I'm most proud of. Yeah, I love that match.
It was
I felt very, very in it the whole time too. I think that's how I measure how good a match is how present I feel in it. And because sometimes you're thinking about things because you have to think about a lot. Especially so it's easier to kind of get lost in the present tense of a match when it's on a pay-per-view because you're not so beholden to advertisements and things like that. You have more freedom in that because usually you have to be thinking about break spots, you have to be thinking about going off air if you're in the main event on a TV show, and so with pay-per-view you get that freedom to breathe and enjoy and be present, and that's one of those matches where I really felt in it, really enjoyed it the whole time.
what did Trish have to say about it afterwards? Was she thrilled with it also?
Yes, she was. Yeah.
That whole run was a lot of fun. I hope it wasn't the end of Trish with WWE. I feel like we
I
have to
don't
see
think
her
so.
again.
I don't think so. I think she wants to come back again.
Yeah, she didn't give you a long goodbye, did she? She didn't give you like a big emotional goodbye.
No.
Just
No.
all right.
I actually don't. I think I ended up because I went out to watch Kobe's match. So yeah. So I never even got a proper goodbye.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she has to come back. That's it then.
Yeah. There we
Uh,
go.
did you get into your relationship with Charlotte in the book? Is that a
Absolutely.
substantial piece?
Yeah. Absolutely. The ups and downs.
And I don't know. I rarely feel I honest to God rarely feel awkward asking about things, but I'm not a big dirt digger, but I also sincerely care. So I am curious about where things are with you guys and how it was when you worked together last time, because you did work together recently.
Yeah. I think good. And look, I think in writing this book, at no point, and certainly not that I do not, certainly did not intend to in any way be disparaging against her, and I don't think I am. I think I'm fair in trying to give her perspective in things because I don't think it's fair to completely bury somebody in a book because they, especially when they, in a world that is so subjective because they don't have the opportunity to defend themselves. So I talk about our fallouts, but I at least try to paint it from her perspective as well as from my own. And working together, yeah, it was easy because I think the undercurrent of all of it, fallouts and all, is love. You get more upset by somebody hurting you if you've loved them, or you do love them, than from somebody that you had no relationship with at all. And that is the thing with Charlotte. We were best friends. We were like sisters. Then we fell out. Wrestling came between us. Then we came back together. Then there was the notorious fallout with the titles. And but I think throughout all of that, if she ever needed anything, I'd be there for her. And I think if I ever needed anything, she'd be there for me. And I think that trumps all. I think life is too short to hold these animosities for too long, and I think you hold them too long, they weigh down on you. And there's just no point in that. We've lost some people in the last year, in the last few years, and it just reminds you how precious this life is and how special this thing that we're doing is. And we can have those disagreements. We can have those conflicts and rivalries, And we cannot always see eye to eye in business, and that's what makes business better, when people feel like it's real. But at the end of the day, you gotta remind yourself what's important.
Do you think, from an on TV standpoint, there's still a lot of story to be told with you and
I think
Charlotte?
so. I think that's one of those things where we can always go back and it'll always be good. Because now we haven't wrestled in 2 years, 2 years more. We haven't wrestled each other in like 2.5 years. So if you see a Becky and Charlotte match, I think anybody's going to be excited to see what's going to happen.
I can't believe that you guys are all at this point like veterans on the roster. Just like, it feels like it was.
You remember when we were babies?
And like, you get to this stage in life where the time goes so fast that, it was a long time ago. Like, Mercedes just debuted in AEW, and she's talking about her stuff and the evolution. I'm like, oh my God, like this is a lifetime ago. This was a
Just a
whole
lifetime ago.
career ago that
Yeah.
you guys changed the business, and you guys will always be inextricably connected, in ways, and we're all better for it. I mean, truthfully, it's very cool when you think about it. Like, I almost take it for granted. You guys were like, there were a lot of great women who, and this does bother me, it can get understated. You just worked with Trish. There were women before you guys who did unbelievable things in this business. But the thing that you guys all did as a group did change it in a way that is different, and it is
Yes.
forever different.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that, like being a part of something that is so historically impactful?
Kind of don't think you can think about it too much when you're in the middle of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? You just get on with it. You're just, okay, good. This is what we wanted. You know what I mean? You don't have to stop and give yourself pats on the back. You're like, okay, what else? What next? What else do we need to be working on here? Let's go. You know?
Right. I guess you can't stop and constantly. I gotta say, we are pretty great, but you can look around the locker room, and you can see the hands that the locker room is going to be passed on to one day, a long time from now, and feel very good about what's come after you. And I think
Yes.
that's a real a testament. Is there a different feeling among the girls who have come later? I always feel, maybe I'm perceiving this the wrong way, but like, I've always seen, like, in Bianca and Rhea and that class of girls, a different sort of energy. It seems like, I don't know, everyone, I feel like the shadow that you guys cast allowed for them to come up, under the learning tree, and kind of even do it in a way that may be even more seamless and easier for them in some ways. Do
I
you see
hope
that
so.
in them?
I hope so. I think so. I think so, but that's the goal. You want to make it better than you found it. And you want it to make it so that the barriers and the hurdles that you have to jump through, they don't have to do that. They can see what's possible and go for it.
Well, I think you guys have done that. I'm going to let you go. You have a child to care for. You have a book to promote. You have a WrestleMania match, in just a couple of weeks at WrestleMania 40. And you are loved. Everyone loves you, Becky. You're one of the best ever. You're a treat. And I'm going to go to Ireland and go to a proper chipper on your behalf, I promise.
And like, it's not always the fancy ones. Like, there's the burdocks that gets all the hype. Sometimes it's just the little shitholes. Just
So
look out for a little shithole.
I'll look for a proper shithole. So will you make me like an actual, will you give me a list of like a handful of things, food and otherwise, that need to be done?
100%. 100%. And I'll also do research, because I know I'm not completely in tune with the new things and the hip things. I'll find out the new and hip things.
Yeah, but if I'm
Because you're
going to
new
Iowa
hip.
anytime soon.
Oh, well, do we have a coffee shop for you?
I bet you do. I bet you know a gym I could go to.
Yep.
A
With
coffee
a
shop for
wrestling
sure.
ring.
There's a wrestling ring you can find. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I
And a
can
coffee shop.
babysit. So much to do. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and congrats on the book. Not Your Average Girl. It is out next week, the 26th. Congrats, Becky.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.